Good evening. I'm the Maven of the Eventide, and welcome back to my vampire library on my new channel. Yes, you may have noticed that this video is not on my regular Maven of the Eventide channel, but it is on my new second channel, which I have made to keep my videos categorized. I love categorizing things. And so does the YouTube algorithm, apparently. So yeah, I'm going to put my unscripted content, like these vampire library videos and my vampire video game Let's Plays, on this channel, quoth the Maven, because I am quothing things unscripted. And all of my scripted vampire reviews, vampire interviews, vampire book club content will stay on the main channel. So make sure you're subscribed to both channels, please. As soon as I get to 1,000 subscribers on this channel, I'll be able to actually monetize it, which would be nice. Tell your friends, because I want to make sure they're not missing these videos. YouTube makes it hard enough to keep up with the content you actually want to watch as it is. For those of you who are new here, in the Vampire Library, we collect vampire books and other books related to spooky and gothic topics, as well as vampire things, knick-knack, bric-a-brac, candles, stuffies, objets d'art, movies, CDs, anything that has to do with vampires, monsters, gothic, spooky stuff is welcome in the Vampire Library, and most of them arrive here by way of you. Thank you. People are always sending new vampire books and things to my P.O. box, and if that's something you want to do, the P.O. box address is in the description of the video, like always. A lot of people are like, hey, have you ever heard of this vampire book? And I'm like, no, I've never heard of that. And then they send it to my P.O. box, or sometimes people are getting rid of books from their own libraries, or they're at used book sales or book clearances or library sales, and they see some vampire books and they pick them up for me. We have done over 24 of these vampire library videos so far. That is how many books there are in the vampire library. As always, we begin with the books, and we'll get to the things next. I have so many things, because as you know, spooky season is upon us. Yes, it is October, the best month of the year. And yes, spooky season technically does start after 4th of July now. That's when they start putting out the Halloween items in the stores, which is why I have so much stuff to share with you. I have been collecting it for months. Yeah, it's been about 6 months since I made one of these videos for you. I think it was just after my birthday, which is why I still have birthday presents in here. My birthday's in May, the least spooky month of the year, that I didn't get to share with you last time because they came after I made the video. So strap on your library helmets. It's time for vampire books. Starting out with something brand new. This just came out last month, September 2024. Immortal Dark by Tyga Screama. Look at the end papers. I love a book with pretty end papers. And speaking of libraries, it's got like the library card on the inside. That's really cute. It says, property of Grand Solomon Library. The Mad Lovers. And it looks like the same guy has checked out the Mad Lovers every day since 1963 until suddenly someone new checked it out in 2023. A lost heiress, a soulless vampire, a secret drenched in blood. It began long before my time, but something has always hunted our family. Orphaned heiress Kadana Dane grew up far from the arcane society she was born into, where human bloodlines gain power through vampire companionship. When her sister June disappears, Kidan is convinced a vampire stole her. The very vampire bound to their family, the cruel yet captivating Susenyo Sagad. Oh, that's who's checked out this book since 1963, and then Kidan is the last name in 2023. Looks like she's doing some research. To find June, Kidan must infiltrate the elite Uxley University, where she must survive living with Susenyos, even as he does everything he can to drive her away. It doesn't matter that Susenyo's wickedness speaks to Kidan's own violent nature and tempts her to surrender to a life of darkness. She must find her sister and kill Susenyos at any cost. When a murder mirroring June's disappearance shakes Uxley, Kidan sinks further into the ruthless underworld of vampires, risking her very soul. There, she discovers a centuries-old threat, and June could be at the center of it. To save her sister, Kidan must bring Uxley to its knees and either break free from the horrors of her own actions or embrace the dark entanglement of love and the blood it requires. A world of vampires that is dangerously romantic, ruthlessly cutthroat, and effortlessly compelling. This is a debut author, their very first book. If you're into dark academia, and the epigraph says, for the black girls who've always marveled at the dark beauty of vampires, the immortals look like us in this one. Yay, black vampires! Oh, there's a content warning at the beginning. It says it features heavy elements such as parental abuse, blood drinking, death, gore, murder, sexual content, strong language, suicidal ideation, and violence. So if that sounds up your alley, it has a map in the front. Ugh, I love beautiful books. And the person who sent it to me said they had read it, even though it just came out last month, so they recommended it. Next up is a new vampire trilogy, as well as a short story anthology, all set in the same universe. These are advanced reader copies, so I don't know if the books are actually out yet. I was given these in June by the publisher. They actually gave it to me when I was at Hellmouth Con, the Buffy the Vampire Slayer con. I was there in June. It was a great time. If you haven't seen it yet, I moderated one of the panels with Juliet Landau and Julie Benz, Drusilla and Darla, vampires from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and that is on my main channel. You can listen to us talk about the bad girls of Buffy. The trilogy is called Blood and Ancient Scrolls series. And the first one is called The Blood Ex Libris by Raven Belasco, a fast-paced, blood-soaked novel of passion, adventure, and vampire politics, as intimate as it is intense. It doesn't have a summary on the back because it just has the advanced reader's copy warning, which says that it is an uncorrected proof, and if you find any typos, you're not supposed to review it and say like, oh, this book had typos, because, you know, the real book will be corrected. It doesn't have a summary, though it does have a bunch of blurbs at the front. And it opens with a quote by Sir Terry Pratchett, "Sometimes it's better to light a flamethrower than to curse the darkness." Book 2 is called Blood Sine Qua Non. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I've never actually studied Latin. Come to these books looking for the hot, sexy times. Stay for the sheer quality. Linger for the quiet intelligence that underlies it all. Book 3 is Blood ad Infinitum. Brings us deep into history, culture, philosophy, and religion, and wraps all of this erudition up in the package of sexy, smart-talking characters as likely to jump into bed as to bite someone, or both at the same time. Oh, so they are sexy vampire books. And this is Stories in the Blood and Ancient Scrolls series, Blood Triad. It's got 3 shorter stories from the series. The person who gave it to me also gave me some swag. There is this book bag with the title logo on it. A code for the audiobooks so I can listen to them, which I've been doing a lot of audiobooks lately while I'm doing my chores and stuff. Glasses cleaner. 2 leather bookmarks. These are sexy. This one has the title on it, and this one says, "Show me to the books," which is a quote from the book. I love book swag. This is Blood Renegade, book 2 in the Blood Herring trilogy by E.H. Drake. I already talked to you about book 1 previously, Blood Herring. The author sent this to me, and she covered up the back so that I wouldn't see spoilers in the description because I haven't read the first book yet. But just to remind you what the first book is about. Why did the vampires hide for so long? It's been 3 years since the massacres, and Detective Gabriel Collins still doesn't know the answer. They took everything from him, and he'll never know why. Until finally, Gabe has his chance. A real vampire murder. A chance to put one of the bloodsuckers away. But when a vampire saves his life, Gabe doesn't know what to think. How can he work with one of the monsters responsible for all his suffering? Lily just wants to know why a vampire drug is flooding Portland. The last thing she needs is to cross paths with police. But when her identity is exposed to the vampire detective, she's forced to keep her enemy closer. Will they be able to save their city, or will their own biases ruin everything? Well, I don't know. I don't know if they save their city or not, but you can read both books to find out. I also received this short story set in the same universe. I'm not sure where in the sequence of books it fits, either between them or maybe a prequel or something. The Vampire's Cold Case. Detective Gabriel Collins is a new guy to vampire crimes, and he's ready to make a difference. But his new partner, Harper, turns everything into a joke. And with the biggest murder vampire crimes has ever seen, Gabe needs every advantage. But how can he solve this case with his partner holding him back every step of the way? Aw, she autographed it to me. To that marvelous Maven, may your library remain full and your TBR endless. Thank you. TBR means to be read, books that you own but haven't read yet, aka most of my vampire library, but we're getting through it. it. But speaking of books I have read, someone sent me a copy of Charlaine Harris's Dead Until Dark. This is the first book in the Sookie Stackhouse cozy murder mystery novel, which they made a show out of on HBO, which you may have heard of, a little show called True Blood. I loved the books. I read all the books before I ever even watched True Blood, and I really enjoyed them. There's like 15 in the series, but if you like light, cozy murder mysteries, they are for you. True Blood is not a light, cozy murder mystery. That show is a very different genre. But if you're into like detective novels with spunky heroines and romantic vampire boyfriends, you'd like the books. As well as 2 copies of Dracula. This one says, basis for a major motion picture from Walmart, 2 for $1. When was this? Which motion picture are they talking about? A major motion picture, sure, Dracula. Oh no. Whoever owned this first wrote in here, they're making a movie at last. At last? When is at last? This is 1988. 1988? The Francis Ford Coppola, Bram Stoker's Dracula came out in 1992. I don't know if it was already in pre-production this early in 1988. Otherwise, the only major Dracula, there was the Frank Langella Dracula in 1979. So this person being like, they're finally making a movie. I was like, where were you 9 years ago? Did you miss Frank Langella? The only Dracula movie that came out in 1988 was Dracula's Widow. And yeah, you've never heard of it for a reason. This copy of Dracula is brand new, and it says it's a limited edition. What's so limited about it? It's the Olive edition by Harper Perennial. This book is part of a special series from Harper Perennial called Olive Editions, exclusive small format editions of some of our best-selling and celebrated titles. All Olive editions are available for limited time only. But what makes it special? It's a small format, but like it's bigger than this one, and they're both the same unabridged book. I wouldn't call this small format. I have much smaller copies of Dracula, like little tiny mini book versions, which I've shown you in previous Vampire Library videos. It doesn't have any kind of like introduction or foreword or any like metatextual analysis, no footnotes. What even makes this special? I don't know. It's got a cool cover, I guess. And it's brand new, just came out this year. This is Watchers in the Night by Jenna Black. It is a paranormal romance novel. It came out in 2006, so it's not one of the ones that was riding Twilight's coattails. This one did it first, though obviously it is for adults. Mystery, magic, and vampires. Jenna Black has created a fresh and fascinating vampire universe. What more could any lover of the paranormal ask for? Well, I don't know. Vampires. They hunt in every major city, hidden by the crowds, shielded by disbelief. They are killers with a capital K. And their prey is human. But not all vampires are killers with a capital K. The Guardians of the Night, with a capital G and an N, sacrifices superior physical and psychic strength that comes with feeding on humans to protect them. But the Guardians walk a thin line, for even a single kill could leave them helplessly addicted to murder. Yes, it is a slippery slope. When detective turned PI Carolyn Mathers was left at the altar, she never once thought her fiancé had been turned into a vampire. 2 years later, Gray reappears, bringing murder, mystery, and an unbelievable tale of guardians, bloodthirsty killers, and his own transformation with him. And he's been accused of murder. A first-rate PI, Carolyn is determined to help. Gray won't allow what he now is to taint her, but Carolyn vows to never let him go again. But will helping Gray mean becoming a creature of the night? I mean, would that be so bad? Carolyn, you live in a universe where you can be a creature of the night, a vampire, and not have to kill humans. Yes, your powers aren't as great, but you're still a freaking vampire. Carolyn, I'm guessing that's probably where it goes. It is a romance, after all. One of the necessary genre conventions of romances, books that are titled a romance in the romance section, is that they have to have the couple get together at the end. Usually they call it a happily ever after, but sometimes it's just a happily for now, but it is a happily. So Carolyn and Gray will be happy at the end. Vampires are not. Seduce the Darkness by Jenna Showalter. One bite and she would be his. It's a paranormal romance, and it is an alien huntress novel, but I don't know that it is the first in the Alien Huntress series. The other 3 books that she has are Awaken Me Darkly, Enslave Me Sweetly, Savor Me Slowly, and this doesn't follow that title convention, so It says it's in the same universe, I think. So I think you have to read those 3 books and then this may be like a spin-off series in that universe, but I don't know if you can read it without having read the others. The summary does make it sound very sequel-y. She has a body made for temptation and a kiss to die for. The war between otherworlders and humans changed Earth beyond recognition. I'm guessing that's what happens in the first 3 books is the war. It also saved Bride Mikkel's life. Before, the gorgeous vampire was a target for every fanatic with a stake and a crucifix. Now she's free to roam the streets and desperate to find others of her kind. One man claims to have the answers she seeks. Devon, king of the Targons, is a warrior and a womanizer, and he makes no secret of how much he wants Bride, and how dangerous he could be to her in every way. An avid collector of women, Devon easily seduces human and otherworlder alike. Until now. Not only does Bride resist him, but she leaves Devon feeling something entirely new. A bone-deep need bordering on obsession. Her blood is the key to curing a vicious alien disease, but helping Bride uncover her origins will compel her to choose between electrifying passion and a destiny that could tear her from Devon's side forever. The blurb says, I've been hooked on this series from the first, and it's just getting better. So, yeah, 4th in a series, it seems like. Now I need to get the first 3. Alien Huntress, aliens and vampires. Love that combination. And this is from 2009. It's important to stay hydrated. When the straw is black, they can't see what you're drinking. Could be blood. It could be vodka. It could be water. Goths need to hydrate too, okay? The Vampire Genevieve, a Warhammer book by Jack Yovel, which is the pseudonym for Kim Newman, author of Anno Dracula, and the Vampire Genevieve is a character in Anno Dracula. We read Anno Dracula for the Vampire Book Club. If you missed it, you can go back to my main channel and watch that video. I save all those live streams. You have to go to the live tab on the videos page in order to find those live streams, where you can just click this thing right here. So yeah, the Vampire Genevieve entered the Warhammer universe. I'm not sure if that happened before or after she was in Anno Dracula. I knew once, and I say it in that video, but I have since forgotten. Evil has a new enemy, one of its own. Meet Genevieve Dieudonne. She is beautiful, powerful, resourceful, and courageous, and over 400 years old. In the crowded cities and dark forests of the Warhammer world, Genevieve and her unlikely companions battle the forces of evil and insanity. However, the vampire blood running through Genevieve's veins means she must consistently fight the urge to surrender to the evil within her. Oh, relatable, Genevieve. This book collects together all the tales of Genevieve and her unusual allies into one packed volume, plus a new introduction by the author. So Genevieve's stories were in various Warhammer books, and this is a collection of just the Genevieve stories. Those stories started in 1989 through 2002. It looks like this one came out in 2005. It looks like a doorstop, but it's actually really light. This is not a heavy book at all. Fluffy paper. To Make Monsters Out of Girls by Amanda Lovelace. This is a book of poetry. This is the same author of The Princess Saves Herself in this one, and The Witch Doesn't Burn in this one. It's very freeform style poetry. Interesting, it's illustrated. Where's the copyright page? By Andrew McNeil Publishing, but it doesn't have a date. Women Are Some Kind of Magic, a feminist book of poetry about vampires with no capitalization. So it's written like tweets. Bloodshot by Sherry Priest, which was sent to me by someone from my Discord server. Thank you. I do have a Discord server. It is open and is public. It is a vampire-themed, spooky goth-themed Discord server. Come join us. Talk about vampires with us. The link is in the video's description, like always. Janine Frost says it's witty, fast-paced, and fabulous. A vastly entertaining read. Vampire for Hire. Raylene Pendle, aka Cheshire Red, a vampire and a world-renowned thief, doesn't usually hang with her own kind. She's too busy stealing priceless art and rare jewels. But when the infuriatingly charming Ian Stott asks for help, Raylene finds him impossible to resist. Even though Ian, or maybe it's Ian, doesn't want precious artifacts. He wants her to retrieve missing government files, documents that deal with the secret biological experiments that left Ian blind. What Raylene doesn't bargain for is a case that takes her from frozen outskirts of Minneapolis to the mean streets of Atlanta. And with a psychotic, power-hungry scientist on her trail, a kick-ass drag queen at her side, and men in black popping up at the most inconvenient moment, the case proves to be one hell of a ride. Oh cool, it has a blind character in it. This book is from 2011, so right during the vampires are popular everywhere thanks to Twilight boom. Classic 2010s urban fantasy. Bloodlines by Rochelle Mead, author of the Vampire Academy series. This is from the spin-off series, set in the same universe as Vampire Academy, but I think this is the beginning of the new series. This is from 2011 as well. I wasn't free of my past, not yet. Sydney's blood is special. That's because she's an alchemist, one of the group of humans who dabble in magic and serve to bridge the world of humans and vampires. They protect vampire secrets and human lives. But the last encounter Sydney had with vampires got her in deep trouble with the other alchemists. And now, with her allegiances in question, her future is on the line. Oh, maybe it's not the first in the series, because it sounds like she had a last encounter. But it's not showing the other books. See, Vampire Academy, Frostbite, Shadow Kiss, Blood Promise, Spirit Bound, and Last Sacrifice, which are the Vampire Academy books, but it's not showing any other books from this. So maybe she was a character in these books, and this is picking up on her story. When Sydney is torn from her bed in the middle of the night, at first she thinks she's still being punished for her complicated alliance with the Danfer Rose Hathaway. Oh, yep, that's the main character of the Vampire Academy series. But what unfolds is far worse. Jill Dragomir, the sister of Moroi Queen Lissa Dragomir, is in mortal danger, and the Moroi must send her into hiding. To avoid a civil war, Sydney is called upon to act as Jill's guardian and protector, posing as her roommate in the unlikeliest of places, a human boarding school in Palm Springs, California. The last thing Sydney wants is to be accused of sympathizing with vampires, and now she has to live with one. The Moroi court believe Jill and Sydney will be safe at Amberwood Prep, but threats, distractions, and forbidden romance lurk both outside and within the school grounds. Now that they're in hiding, the drama is only just beginning. So it's a powerful creatures of darkness have to go to high school book. Fun. The Pallbearer Club by Paul Tremblay, and the person who sent this to me said, don't let the summary confuse you. It is, in fact, a vampire book, so let's see what that summary is. What if the coolest girl you ever met decided to be your friend? Art Barbaro was not so cool. He was a 17-year-old high school loner in the late 1980s who listened to hair metal, had to wear a monstrous back brace at night for his scoliosis, and started an extracurricular club for volunteer pallbearers at a poorly attended funerals. But his new friend thought the Pallbearers Club was cool, and she brought along her Polaroid camera to take pictures of the corpses. Okay, that part was a little weird. So was her obsessive knowledge of notorious bit of New England folklore that involved digging up the dead. Oh, is this about the New England vampire panic? That happened far before the 1980s. And there were other strange things, terrifying things, that happened when she was around, usually at night. But she was his friend, so it was okay, right? Decades later, Art tries to make sense of it all by writing The Pallbearers Club, a memoir. But somehow this friend got her hands on the manuscript and, well, she has some issues with it. And now she's making cuts. Seamlessly blurring the lines between fiction and memory, the supernatural and mundane, The Pallbearers Club is an immersive, suspenseful portrait of an unforgettable and unsettling friendship. The most beautiful and heartbreaking funeral I've been to in a long time. The Pallbearers Club is melancholy, funny, and very cruel, but you won't regret carrying this coffin. Oh, that quote's from Grady Hendrix, who wrote the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires, the best book so far that we have read in the Vampire Book Club. We all really love that one. If he likes it, it must be good. This came out in 2022, so it's only a couple years old. To Hunt and to Hold, a short story anthology compiled by Dragon Soul Press. This book came out last year in 2023, and it was sent to me by the author of one of the stories in this anthology. Thank you. Vampires Run Rampant. This anthology is full of stories revolving around one of the oldest blood-sucking monsters. Each tale is unique as these authors write their own twist on vampires. From the Victorian era to the future with space travel, there's something for everyone in this dark collection. To Hunt and to Hold makes it sound like it's a wedding, to have and to hold, but, you know, with vampires. So I wonder if it has a romance theme to it or a matrimonial theme, or if they just thought that was a cute title. Covenant with the Vampire, The Diaries of the Family Dracul by Jean Calogridis, as well as one of its sequels, Lord of the Vampires. It says it's a trilogy, so I don't know what the third book is, whether this one is second or third. But for the first one, in her incredibly accomplished fiction debut, Jean Calogridis takes on one of the most compelling and terrifying classics ever written, Bram Stoker's Dracula. Dark, sensual, and charged with suspense, Covenant with the Vampire reveals the mysteries behind Dracula, transforming it into a piece of a puzzle that is much larger, more complex, and more compelling than anyone might have imagined. Beginning 50 years before the start of Bram Stoker's novel, Covenant with the Vampire introduces us to Dracula's family, who are bound by a covenant as ancient as their blood to serve Dracula and to protect him. At the castle of Prince Vlad Cheptish, also known as Dracula, Vlad's great-nephew Arkady has recently taken over the job of managing the thriving, busy estate. Arkady is honored to care for his beloved, though eccentric, great-uncle, until he begins to realize what is expected of him in his new role. Either he provides his great-uncle with victims to satisfy his needs, or Vlad will kill those Arkady loves. He is trapped into becoming a party to murder and sadistic torture, and it is in his blood. When Arkady learns that his newborn son is being groomed to follow one day in his footsteps, he knows he must fight Dracula, even if it means his death. That reminds me a lot of the Renfield movie that came out a couple of years ago. Love that movie. Also about the guy who gets Dracula's victims for him wanting to get out of the business, which was not actually Renfield's job at all in the original Dracula book or in any of the movies, as far as I remember, but it does make for a great movie. And that this takes place 50 years before Bram Stoker's Dracula, that means this is set in the mid-1800s. Fun times. Now I've got a stack here of children's books. I love spooky books for kids. This is Vladimir Tod, the best-selling series. This is the second book in the series. I haven't read the first. I talked to you previously about Vladimir Tod, the first book in the series, the tagline being 8th grade bites. This is a middle grade book. And the sequel is a 9th grade slays. So it sounds like things get better. I'm not going to read you the summary of this just in case it has spoilers for the first, but I will remind you what the first one is about. Throwback. These books were super popular right around the same time Twilight was popular, but for a younger crowd than Twilight. And as they said back then, for the boys. Vladimir Tod. Tod being the German word for death. Normal 8th grade student or powerful vampire. Junior high really stinks for 13-year-old Vladimir Tod. Bullies harass him, the principal is dogging him, and the girl he likes prefers his best friend. Oh, and Vlad has a secret. His mother was human, but his father was a vampire. With no idea of the extent of his powers and no one to teach him, Vlad struggles daily with his blood cravings and his enlarged fangs. When a strange substitute teacher begins to question him a little too closely, Vlad worries that his cover is about to be blown. But then he realizes he has a much bigger problem. He's being hunted by a vampire killer who's closing in, fast. This first book in the ghoulishly funny series leads readers on a nail-biting adventure that is filled with dark characters and mystical glyphs, secret identities and hidden agendas, unearthly powers, and teenage angst. All the good vampire stuff. According to book 2, book 3 is called 10th Grade Bleeds. The classic Chillers edition of Dracula, adapted by Stephanie Spinner. I have the classic Chillers edition of Phantom of the Opera, which is not in my vampire library. It's over next door in the Phantom of the Opera library. But I love that book. I love the things that they did with it. And the illustrations. This one also has pretty cool illustrations. He's evil, he's powerful, he's thirsty for blood. He's none other than the vampire Count Dracula. Step-up classic chillers are wonderfully scary yet easy to read. They're adapted from some of the best books ever written. Read them all, if you dare. The thing I like about the Phantom of the Opera one is it's kind of a prequel. It tells a lot about the Phantom's childhood before it gets to the main story. So I wonder if this one does anything cool like that. It starts off with Jonathan Harker going to Transylvania, so guess not. Bites and Bones flip book. It's got a bunch of authors, so I guess it's an anthology. Scary stories to sink your teeth into. This side is Bites, and then you flip it over, and this side is Bones. Terrifying tales to haunt your dreams. So we got vampire stories, and then on the other side, skeleton stories? Skeleton Keeper, yeah. Skeleton stories. It's a scholastic book from 2009. Vampire short stories for children. Doesn't give a grade level, so I'm guessing middle grade. maybe even high school, young adult. 2 books from the My Sister is a Vampire series, neither of which are the first in the series. This is book 2 in the series, called Fantastic. Looks like book 1 in the series is called My Sister the Vampire Switched, and book 3 in the series is called Revamped. This one doesn't have a name. This one's called Love Bites, so I think it might just be a spin-off. It says reading level 2.5 for 8 to 12-year-olds, middle grade books. This one's from 2007, which means the first one was probably from 2006 or earlier, so right before the Twilight boom takeoff, so this is ahead of its time. Help! A Vampire's Coming by Abby Klein. This is a Ready Freddy book by Scholastic. Big print for children learning how to read. It came out in 2005. I have a problem, a really, really big problem. I keep having these nightmares about a vampire. Let me tell you about it. Yes, child, tell me about your vampire nightmares. It doesn't have a grade level on it, but I'm guessing maybe for like 2nd or 3rd grade. 4 books in the Bunnicula series. We did a video all about the Bunnicula series a few years ago. You can watch it here on my main channel. We've got the first Bunnicula, A Rabbit Tale of Mystery, The Celery Stalks at Midnight, Holiday Inn, and Nighty Nightmare. These are 4 of 6 in the Bunnicula series, the others being Bunnicula Strikes Again and Bunnicula Meets Edgar Allan Poe. And I talk about all of those in that video, so if you want to hear more, I talk about how the author, as a gay author, uses his life experience to write about friendship between male characters. You never knew Bunnicula were gay books, did you? In the sense of teaching kids tolerance and anti-bullying and anti-prejudice and stuff. The Beastly Pageant, a monster pop-up book. Let's see the vampires. Where's the vampire? Oh, this is so cute. This monster's having a pageant, pop-up book. There's a little vampire right there. Aw. Something's really spooky about this year's pageant. Even horrific Horace is horrified. Terrifying Tales, 9 stories of spine-tingling suspense, retold by Nicola Baxter. The story of how I got this book is someone on my Discord was trying to remember a book from their childhood. It turned out to be this book. And someone else on the Discord helped them find it. And I looked and I saw it on Amazon and they had 1 copy left. And I was like, well, I'm going to buy that copy before the other person gets it. So I did. So if you were actually trying to buy this copy from Amazon, I'm sorry I sniped it from you. I'm sure there are plenty of other places to get it. It's from 2013. It's not that old. But basically it's children's retelling of all your classic monster stories. We've got Dracula, Mummy, Body Snatchers, Frankenstein, Sweeney Todd, Sleepy Hollow, Sherlock Holmes, Hound of the Baskervilles. 9 stories of spine-tingling suspense, fictional frighteners such as Dr. Faustus, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, and Sherlock Holmes' famous encounter with the Hound of the Baskervilles. Terrifying true stories, including The Curse on the Tomb of Tutankhamun and The Body Snatchers' Burke and Hare. Dramatic pictures by Graham Howells and David Leith bring all the ghastly characters vividly to life. Exciting reading for brave 8 to 12-year-olds. And I happen to have an 8 to 12-year-old. Did you know my fledgling spawn is now 10 years old?
10 years old.
Yeah. Remember when he was this? Don't you feel old now? This is something cool. This is a Anne Rice Interview with the Vampire fanzine that I am in the Interview with the Vampire Anne Rice fandom, and they someone in the fandom put together a fanzine, and I entered into it some cosplay pictures and got accepted, and they put them in. They actually put my cosplay pictures on the very first page. I'm so honored. But it's got a bunch of other cool art and stories. Oh, that's one of my good friends. That's Michelle and Christine. You look so good, you guys. And some fanfic in here and some drawings. And some of them are based on the TV show and some of them are based on the books. So you get all kinds of different types of aspects of that fandom. This is the regular zine, but they also did a sexy edition of the zine. So these are all the sexy stories. You could buy this as like a separate thing. It's called Encore. We're still selling these. They did like a Kickstarter, GoFundMe sort of thing for it. There might still be copies that you can get. I'm not sure, but you could look it up. Interview with the Vampire, Théâtre des Vampires fanzine, which I'm in, so buy it for me. it might be too late. They might be all gone. Speaking of Anne Rice, we got some extra copies of her books here. Another copy of Pandora. I always loved this book just because it was like small and weirdly shaped and deckled edges. I got this book, I think back when it came out. I think my dad gave it to me and I just liked it for the shape of it, but then I never read it for years. And then I finally read it later. I was like, why did I put this one off so long? You should read Pandora before you read The Vampire Armand. And definitely before you read Blood and Gold. But those three books kind of all tie together, retell the same story from several different sides. A nice hard copy of The Vampire Lestat. Can never have too many of those. The person who sent it to me also sent me this really cool card. I love this card. Thank you. It's beautiful. And these, which you're probably going like, why do you have copies of Playboy? If you watched my videos about the Interview with the Vampire TV show, I think it was the video about episode 5 of season 2, you would know why I have these copies of Playboy. These both feature Anne Rice in them. This one, which is the January 1979 one, has something called Interlude with the Vampire, which was a short story Anne Rice wrote about the way Armand chooses to hunt as a vampire. Hold on, I have to cover up the boobs. And it's got like sexy pictures to go along with it, along with her whole story. I guess that's supposed to be Armand. But yeah, the way he hunts is different in the actual books, so I don't know if the reason she didn't use this in the books was because she didn't want this to be the way he hunts, or if she kind of changed it later. Dang, Armand can get it. But yeah, it is a very Anne Ricey story, very sexy, which is why it is in Playboy. Of course, it's not graphically sexy, it's vampire sexy, just, you know, like biting and stuff, not actual sex, because Anne Rice's vampires don't have sex. Who needs sex when you have blood? And then this one includes an interview with Anne Rice. Anne Rice defends erotica, boxing, and vampires in a biting Playboy interview. And it's a really good, really long interview, too. She goes on for a while. She is in Playboy as an erotica author because she wrote several erotica novels, the Sleeping Beauty trilogy, and then 2 standalone novels, Belinda and Exit to Eden, which are just straight up smut, BDSM smut. And so she had a lot of fans that would like come to her book signings, even for non-erotica books, and they bring her like whips and chains and handcuffs. So she was known in the erotica community, and Playboy interviewed her and just talked a lot about like her views on vampires and how vampires are erotic, and then other like feminism and erotica and why it's okay for women to indulge in erotica and it's not shameful, and had very strong views about like what was okay to express as a woman. She wasn't here for double standards. This is the March 1993 edition. This came out right after Body Thief came out, and in it she mentions another book that she's been writing, one of the Mayfair Witches books that's coming out soon, and then says that she has more planned for Lestat, which we know now is Memnoch the Devil, which ended up being what she thought was her last Lestat book. She couldn't quit Lestat. He kept coming back like a cockroach. So yeah, I got these on eBay because the sort of things I was like, why don't I have that in my collection? And now I have illicit, dirty magazines in my house that my children will probably find one day, and it'll be a whole fiasco. Speaking of Anne Rice, these are not vampire books, but since you were good enough to send them to me, I'm sharing them too. This is The Feast of All Saints, which is a novel about the Creole people in New Orleans. Explores the unique but little-known society, the free people of color, who flourished in New Orleans in the years prior to the Civil War. History has buried this proud race, yet in their shadowy world, neither black nor white, an aristocracy arose among them. Artists, poets, sculptors, men of wealth, education, distinction, and a species of beautiful quadroon women whose allure for the wealthy white men of Louisiana became a legend. Against the backdrop of the raw sensuality, violence, and vigor of the French Quarter of the 1840s, Anne Rice has woven a passionate tale of the lives of these people, and in particular the coming of age of an astonishing copper-skinned, blue-eyed youth, Marcel, and his beautiful sister Marie, who could pass. A novel peopled with some of the most splendidly realized characters in contemporary fiction, it is a profound and absorbing work of literature. The docks, the slave market, the quadroon balls with violins piercing the night air in three-quarter time, the opera, the glamour, which all seems doomed and ephemeral, are part of the Belle Epoque of America's French capital. At the times when some 18,000 free people of color thrived in New Orleans, they shared at least one blessing with all mankind, that they could not know the future. And a movie was made of this book, and you sent me a VHS cassette of it. This is so cool. I've always wanted to watch this movie, but it's hard to find. I don't have a VHS player, but I have several VHS that I certainly wish I could watch. It has James Earl Jones in it, who we just lost recently. And also Ben Vereen and Eartha Kitt, all-star cast. I think it was a made-for-TV movie, so that's probably why you haven't heard of it, but I need to read the book and then I need to watch the movie. Look at what a baby she was. Taltos, which is the third book in the Witch trilogy that she wrote, which directly ties into the Vampire Chronicles, Blackwood Farm, and Blood Canticle. You have to have read Taltos to really fully understand those two Vampire Chronicles. Though, in order to understand Taltos, you have to read the first two witch books because they're all direct sequels. This is the one where Rowan goes on her girl boss murder spree. It's great. And this is what was just coming out up soon when Anne did that Playboy interview. Servant of the Bones, another one of her supernatural novels that is not a vampire novel. This one is about a genie/ghost. I haven't read it, actually. A new saga begins, a major departure for the incomparable Anne Rice. Having created fantastic universes of vampires and witches, having chronicled the exploits of Lestat and the Mayfairs, she carries us now into new realms of the occult, the mystical and the magical, and into the presence, now and through the centuries, of a dark and luminous new hero, the powerful, witty, smiling Azrael, servant of the bones. He is a ghost, demon, angel, in love with the good, enthralled to the evil. He pours out his heart to us, telling his astonishing story when he finds himself in our own time in New York City, a dazed witness to the murder of a young girl called Esther, and inexplicably obsessed by the desire to avenge her. He takes us back to his mortal youth in the magnificent city of Babylon, the gateway to the pagan gods, a wonder of ziggurats, shrines, and ships at the anchor of all nations. We see Azrael at 20, a Jew, educated, rich, beautiful, fiercely devoted to his captive Hebrew tribe, and dedicated to the prophets Jeremiah and Isaiah. In this time of bloody wars and religious upheavals, greedy kings and cunning magicians who vie with the rabbis for spiritual dominion, Azrael falls victim to a royal plot compounded by his devotion to his Hebrew god, only to be plucked from death by evil priests and sorceresses and transformed into a genie, commanded to do their bidding. Challenging these forces of destruction, marshaling all his strength and wit to defeat them, Azrael embarks on his perilous journey through time, from Babylon's Hanging Gardens to Europe of the Black Death to Manhattan in the 1990s, and ultimately to his crucial confrontation with the ambitious and charismatic multi-billionaire, the televangelist terrorist Gregory Belkin, father of the mysterious murdered Esther, and the 20th century embodiment of all that Azrael has struggled against. As Azrael's quest approaches its climactic horror, he dares to use and to risk his supernatural powers in the hope of forestalling a world-threatening conspiracy and redeeming at last what was denied him so long ago, his own eternal human soul. Definitely see some connections there to the vampire books. This came out after Memnoch the Devil, but in Memnoch the Devil, it is a televangelist whose father dies because Lestat kills him, and then that causes problems that lead to hijinks. And this time, it's the televangelist whose daughter dies. But the father is a multi-billionaire named Gregory, which is the same as one of her characters in the Prince Lestat trilogy, though he is not a New Yorker, he is an ancient Egyptian, but he has become a multi-billionaire pharmaceutical giant corporation CEO guy. She just liked that name Gregory. She also likes billionaires. A lot of her books are wealth porn and get-rich Cinderella stories. She grew up with not a lot of money and always liked to write about the fabulous and the wealthy as sort of, fantasy and escape. Christ the Lord Out of Egypt, a novel, Anne Rice. This is Anne Rice's fan fiction about Jesus's childhood growing up. And she did a sequel to this called Christ the Lord, The Road to Cana. She wrote this book when she returned to the Catholic Church. She decided that she thought she could make the Catholic Church better from the inside by rejoining it. She was always very pro-gay rights and wanting to bring tolerance for gay people. And she thought that if she went back into the church, she would be able to fix that. And then she eventually became disillusioned with that, realizing that it was so corrupt and so backwards and regressive that she gave up and she left the church again. But while she was in the church, she said she wasn't going to write about anything evil anymore, which meant vampires, witches, werewolves, and so on and so forth. So she wrote fan fiction about Jesus. And then she wrote some crime procedural dramas with angels. A riveting, reverent imagining of the hidden years of the child Jesus. A triumph of tone. Her prose is lean, vivid, and character. Christ the Lord is a cross between a historical novel and an update of Tolstoy's The Gospels in brief. It presents Jesus as nature mystic, healer, prophet, and very much a real young boy. Essentially, it's a mystery story of the child grappling to understand his miraculous gifts and numinous birth. As he ponders his staggering responsibility, the boy is fully believable, and yet there's something in his supernatural empathy and blazing intelligence that conveys the wondrousness of a boy like no other. With this novel, Anne Rice has indeed found a convincing version of him. This is fiction that transcends story and instead qualifies as an act of faith. That's from Kirkus Reviews, and I'm sure she was very flattered by those words of praise. This is not the first time that Anne has written a boy genius. She also likes boy genius characters, like Julian Mayfair reading complex adult books at the age of 2, and Mona Mayfair making a killing at the stock market at age 13. American Vampires, Fans, Victims, Practitioners by Noreen Dresser. This is a nonfiction book. Vampires are all American guys. Having successfully survived their journey from Eastern Europe, they have taken root in American culture where for some people they are entertainment and for others, a definite reality. In this fascinating book, Noreen Dresser, a folklorist, brings us the fruit of her unique research into the American vampire phenomenon. Of when did this come out? Which vampire phenomenon was this? Because let me tell you, we have had multiple American vampire phenomenons. This is 1989. So we're talking like punk 80s vampire, like the people who saw the movie The Hunger and were like, that could be us. We meet individuals who enhance their sex lives through imbibing, though in very small amounts, another's blood, and who dress and mask themselves as those idolized creatures. And we meet others whose obsession with vampires is confined to viewing endless reruns of Dark Shadows. That soap opera's legion of fans, their annual conventions and newsletters form a subculture all of its own. American vampires are big business, Dresser reveals. The vampire image occurs frequently in our daily lives, in television and radio commercials, on breakfast cereal boxes, on greeting cards, and of course, in Halloween costumes. In short, from crib to crypt, Americans are bombarded with the vampire icon, amusing, sexually titillating, and of course, terrifying. Professor Dresser presents her scholarly research with journalistic flair and wry humor that will appeal to a wide audience of readers. She teaches folklore at Cal State LA and is a research associate at the Center for Study of Comparative Folklore and Mythology at UCLA. At least she was in 1989. This sounds like a really fun book. Vampires and Violets. This is another nonfiction book about lesbians in film, and of course it talks about Carmilla. It's the most complete history of lesbians in film ever published. It's wonderfully intelligent and fun to read. The book abounds with fascinating facts, stunning insights, and provocative analysis. It's a treasure. Andrea Weiss tracks the often elusive trail of the lesbian through Hollywood films, as well as B-movies, European art cinema, and the work of contemporary directors. With wit and political acumen, she opens the concealed sexual world of a host of movies, both popular and forgotten, and reclaims the secret history of gay women in film. Doing God's work there, Andrea Weiss. When did this come out? If you like scholarly research books, this is a fun one. This came out in 1992. It's a British book. On to some books that aren't necessarily vampire books, but definitely fit in the vampire library. This is a very adorable little golden edged copy of Edgar Allan Poe's classic tales of horror. I love little books. Look at these end papers with the raven. This is so pretty. I love it. Gilt edges, teeny tiny print. There's actually more stories in here than I thought would fit. Look at them. Look at all those stories. Bernice, Morella, King Pest, Shadow, A Parable, Lygia, The Fall of the House of Usher, William Wilson, The Man of the Crowd, The Oval Portrait, Mask of the Red Death, Pit of the Pendulum, Telltale Heart, Black Cat, Premature Burial, Oblong Box, Imp of the Perverse, The Cask of Amontillado, and Hop Frog. This adorable little edition just came out this year in 2024 by Sirius Publishing. Sirius, like the star. This is really cool. This is from the Riverside Literature Series, The Raven, The Fall of House of Usher, and Other Poems and Tales by Edgar Allan Poe, edited by William P. Trent. And this little book is from 1897. Oh. And it doesn't just have the text of the poems and stuff, it's annotated. It has footnotes by the editor, some really cool information in here. It's so funny what he thinks he needs the comment to tell us. So like in Lenore, he's like, oh, the golden bowl that she's separated from is a reference to the Bible when they say that the golden bowl is broken and the silver cord is cut, which I didn't know that reference to the Bible. And that really, I appreciate that because Anne Rice references the silver cord too. And I was like, aha, connections back to Anne Rice. That is in Prince Lestat in the Realms of Atlantis. But then there's other things like the word debonair, that he thought most people wouldn't know the word debonair. And that word has come so much into our public vocabulary now that, you know, everyone knows what the word debonair means. We don't need it defined and told what the French means. So it's really cool to see what we've learned since then, what's become common to our language now based on what was common in 1897. Paul found this at an estate sale auction and he bid on it and won it for only $7. Fools at that auction. You can't smell this, but we have Sherlock Holmes and Mr. Hyde and Sherlock Holmes and Dorian Gray. And these are, of course, sequels to Sherlock Holmes and Count Dracula, which we discussed in our vampire book club. We read this together and I made a video about it. Click the link. You can also go back to my main channel and click on the live tab to see all my Vampire Book Club recordings. And we talk about Sherlock Holmes and Count Dracula, and definitely did end feeling like sequel bait. And since then, 2 sequels have come out. Sherlock Holmes gets on with Mr. Hyde, and then Dorian Gray. I don't know if Dracula is still in these books. In the first book, he did not die. He actually ended up working with Sherlock Holmes. He was a good Dracula. They became friends. He was wonderfully misunderstood. The bad guy was someone else. So he's still around, and he and Sherlock Holmes became buddies, or at least like work together. And so he might be in these books. I don't know. Speaking of Sherlock Holmes, we have a copy of Sherlock Holmes: The Missing Years by Jamning Yorbu, The Adventures of the Great Detective in India and Tibet, one of those published fan fictions of Sherlock Holmes written by a different author who, like they all do, is pretending to, oh, I found in Dr. Watson's manuscripts this story that no one else had found before. This is one I haven't heard of, the 7% Solution, of course, being one of the most famous ones, but there's a ton out there. It's cool that this one takes place in Asia. That's really interesting. It's got footnotes where the author is like, in this story I found, here are my footnotes. And the author is Tibetan. Says he is the author of several books, 5 plays, a traditional opera libretto, and lectures frequently on Tibetan culture and the Tibetan freedom struggle in the United States, Canada, and Europe. Sherlock Holmes in Tibet. This is Early to Death, Early to Rise, a novel by Kim Harrison, who you know from the Dead Witch Walking series, which also has vampires in it. This is her debut young adult book series, and I got this book when I was going to Goodwill to find old books with covers that I could use, that I could take the pages out and then use the covers for making crafts, junk journals and stuff. But after I bought this, I realized it was a book about death. It's a Grim Reaper book. And I also realized it was second in the series. So then, of course, I had to go and find the first book in the series, which is Once Dead, Twice Shy. And this is her actual debut novel in the young adult sphere. And you know how I feel about death books. My name is Madison Avery, and I'm here to tell you that there's more out there than you can see, hear, or touch, because I'm there, seeing it, touching it, living it. Madison's prom was killer, literally. For some reason, she's been targeted by a Dark Reaper. Yeah, that kind of Reaper, intent on getting rid of her, body and soul. But before the Reaper could finish the job, Madison was able to snag his strange glowing amulet and get away. Now she's stuck on Earth, dead but not gone. Somehow the amulet gives her the illusion of a body, allowing her to toe the line between life and death. She still doesn't know why the Dark Reaper is after her, but she's not about to just sit around and let fate take its course. With a little ingenuity, some light bending, and the help of a Light Reaper, one of the good guys, maybe, her cute crush, and oh yeah, her guardian angel, Madison's ready to take control of her own destiny once and for all, before it takes control of her. Well, if she believed in that stuff. I love Grim Reaper books. I don't know if there are more in this series or if it was just 2, but since I found the second one first, I had to go get the first one. And this one came out in 2009. Lore Olympus, I have Volume 5, the regular edition. I shared with you already the Barnes & Noble Special Edition of Volume 5. Now I have the regular edition too. And the Barnes & Noble Exclusive Edition of Volume 6. I don't have the regular edition of Volume 6 yet. Can you believe Lore Olympus is over? Over. Forever. will always have the books. Though I still prefer to read it online because the way it is formatted, the scrolling format of the comic, it was written for that format, that vertical scrolling format. Don't read it on your computer, read it on a phone or a tablet. When it's laid out like this in comic book form, yeah, it looks good, but it's so much better online. But this is nice to have for posterity. But the author is starting something new. She is writing a Death in the Maiden comic, which I am so excited about. I love Death in the Maiden stories. This is The Complete Phantom of the Opera by George Perry. So this book came out shortly after the musical. I want to say 90 or something. No, 1987, immediately after the musical, before the musical even came to Broadway. This was out after the London. And it's just sort of like entirely on the making of the musical, the making of Phantom. It talks about the Lon Chaney movie. It talks about the original book. It's just sort of like a crash course intro to Phantom of the Opera. And then it has the entire libretto of the musical in the back. And I used to read this book when I was in 8th grade in my English class. We would have free reading at the beginning of class. And we could go to the little library my teacher had and pick something and just read it for 15 minutes before we started our lessons. And she had this there, and I would go and take it and read it every single day. This is a copy in really good condition. Thank you for sending this to me. 8th grade memories. Are we all out of books? Are we down to the stuff? Love it when we get to the stuff. Of course, we stick with media first. You sent me a copy of the Interview with the Vampire soundtrack. Thank you. This is a wonderful soundtrack. I don't know if you know this, but that very beginning music you hear at the beginning of all my videos where it goes... That is from the Interview with the Vampire soundtrack. It's called Lestats Recitative, and YouTube flags it often, and I probably shouldn't be using it without permission, but I do it anyway. I only use 5 seconds of it. I can test that copyright all the time. It's fine. Also, the Blu-ray of the 20th anniversary version of Interview with the Vampire. This is the Interview with the Vampire's 30th anniversary this year, so I was hoping they'd come out with a 30th anniversary edition, and I have the original DVD from like 15, 20 years ago. So I didn't want to buy the Blu-ray for the 20th anniversary because I thought a better one was coming and I was going to wait for that better quality or whatever. But it didn't come. They released so much stuff for the 30th anniversary, all the merchandise at Hot Topic, like the makeup palettes, like so much, but they didn't re-release the movie. So I finally went and did buy this on Amazon. It was actually pretty cheap. But it has the director's commentary on it, and it has the little documentary they made with the making of. It's really cool. Some really good special features in this, and then the whole like enhanced quality of the movie. You also sent me the soundtracks of Twilight, first movie, and New Moon. You know what a lot of people say about Twilight? Like, even if they hated the movie, even if they're like completely off on it, they're always like, they had good soundtracks. I know some people don't like this kind of teenager music, but they did have good soundtracks. I enjoy the soundtracks, so thank you. I now have them in CD form. These have seen some love. Look at these cases. Twilight's kind of having another moment lately, isn't it? I guess I'm probably like a year and a half behind on mentioning that. This is Bats, a movie. I have not heard of this movie before. I don't know if it's a vampire movie or just a bat movie. It says Human Harvest. Don't go near the dark. Rated R. This is some kind of library or rental copy. Oh, Springfield Green County Library District. Time, present day. The place, Russia. The mission, to track down and capture fantastical weapons specialist Dr. Walsh, hiding in a research facility deep in the notorious Belzim forests of Chechnya. Specially trained and armed, an elite unit of soldiers is combing through the endless forest, looking to bring their target to justice. But what they're about to find is an enemy they're not prepared to fight. Genetically altered vampire bats, programmed to feast on human flesh and blood in this horrifying action thriller. Oh, it's a man versus nature movie. It's got deleted scenes. Never heard of this movie. It's from 2007, from Destination Films and Sci-Fi Pictures. Copy of Blade 2, aka everyone's favorite Blade, though I definitely had my criticisms of it. We talked about Blade 2 on this channel many years ago. And then Blade Trinity, which we never talked about because why would we? This is the unrated version. I don't know if I've seen the unrated. This is the Platinum series. I did talk about the Blade TV show, which came after Blade Trinity. So of course I referenced Blade Trinity, but I've never actually talked about the movie itself. Everyone's like, when are you going to do a video on Blade Trinity? I thought about doing a video on all the worst Draculas that ever Draculaed. And of course, Dracula from this movie was going to be on that list. So I figured I'd talk about it then. We'll see. This wonderful collection is the Universal Horror, like, grand, I don't know what edition or special thing this is, but it's got all the classic Universal: Dracula, Frankenstein, Invisible Man, Mummy, Bride of Frankenstein, Wolfman, Phantom of the Opera, and Creature of the Black Lagoon. And you know how I feel whenever a Monster Mash includes Phantom of the Opera. We must have it. But it also has this book, this companion coffee table type book that goes with it, which is really cool. Look at that. Look at Phantom on page 1, where he belongs, even though this isn't the movie, the Phantom movie that they include in this. They include the second Phantom movie that Universal Monster does. I think Phantom of the Opera is the only one in the classic Universal Monsters that they did twice. And I don't mean like a sequel, like they completely redid Phantom of the Opera a second time. So sometimes when you see the Universal Monster lineup, it's the Lon Chaney Phantom, and sometimes it's the Claude Rains Phantom. Man, this is gorgeous. Claude Rains was, of course, also the Invisible Man. Bride of Frankenstein, the gayest movie of all of them. And there's our other Phantom of the Opera. Now, why am I focusing on Phantom? I didn't even show you Dracula, did I? My brother gave me this for my birthday. Thank you, brother. These are super cool. These are book makeup palettes by Vampire Cosmetics, who we have discussed before. This is the Buffy the Vampire Slayer makeup palette based on the Vampire book from the TV show. And the makeup line that this is from is called About Time, and the promotion material for it featured Julie Benz and Juliet Landau in historical costumes as Darla and Drusilla through time from all different time periods. It's also about time we finally had a decent Buffy makeup palette. This is one of Vampire Cosmetics' book palettes. I showed you their Dracula and Wuthering Heights and Jane Eyre and Cthulhu palettes before that were books, but these are bigger than even those. Got the mirror, another magnet card with the gorgeous ladies on it, and then 3 pages of eyeshadow colors. I got this, like I said, when I was in California for the Buffy the Vampire convention, but since then they have come out with a whole bunch more lines in this makeup collection. They changed the name of the website. You can look up Vampire Cosmetics with Y and you'll still find it, but now it's on Phoenix Rising Cosmetics, which is a women-owned vegan cosmetics company that focus on licensed properties of spooky things that you love. At the same time, they came out with the Interview with the Vampire makeup palette. This is the TV show Interview with the Vampire licensed tie-in makeup palette, and they have other items too besides just the eyeshadow palette, but this is really cool. It's huge. This is the biggest of all their makeup look palettes I've seen. It also has 4 pages of colors. Look at all those reds and blacks, those spooky gothic colors. I love it. And then it also has the brighter colors that go with the more like Art Deco vibe of the different time period that the TV show is set in. The greens and blues. It was funny when they were first advertising this, when it was just pictures online and Interview with the Vampire fans saw it, they only really looked at this page. They didn't look at the other pages that were in more of the ads, and they're like, those are vampire eyeshadows? They're not gothic at all. Where are all the reds and blacks? I was like, friends, they're right here. Don't worry. We got you. Vampire Cosmetics. Makeup is magical. Steeped in academia and dark lore, we create products for the people mainstream brands leave behind. We believe you should be able to express yourself as you wish. Vampire Cosmetics gives you the tools to define your aesthetic and begin your makeup adventure. Speaking of makeup, this is a set of makeup brushes I got for super cheap. And I'm just like, they're so vampire-y. I love them. Look at them. I almost don't want to use them. They're so pretty. Oh, another thing. While I was at the Buffy convention, Juliet Landau announced her new podcast, and this was like a QR code they gave us where we could go and subscribe to their podcast. But you can find it, Slayin' It, with Juliet Landau on any podcast platform where you get your podcasts. And it is a Buffy rewatch podcast, and the only Buffy rewatch podcast with a cast member. And it's not just her. She brings on other guests, other cast members from the show on the episodes with her. It's a really fun podcast. There are lots of Buffy rewatch podcasts out there, but not with cast members. Oh, these I forgot to show you last time. When I went to the Interview with the Vampire press event in New York back before the first episode came out, when we saw the premiere of the first episode. This was the press pass to get into the red carpet event. And this bracelet was what they came around and they secretly put this bracelet on you. And if you got a bracelet on you, you got to go on a tour back into the event space where there was live performance art of the theater of the vampires, of basically what Santiago does in the TV show, where they have the victim that he then kills live on stage. We got to see that performance. And I went through it twice, actually. I went through it once just on my own with my friends. And then I saw that some of the actors were going back there. Sam Reed and Jacob Anderson and a few of the others were going on it. So I just went along with them again. So I got to go through it twice. And while I was going on it twice, that's when I got to talk to Sam Reed and ask him my questions, which I still haven't edited that footage yet just because the sound on it is so bad you can barely hear it. So I just got to add a bunch of subtitles to it. But my question to him was, aside from the Vampire Lestat, an interview with the vampire, what was his favorite of Anne Rice's books in the Vampire Chronicles and why? And he did answer it. He gave me a pretty cool answer. Got like a whole tray full of vampire things and spooky things that I have to share with you. Where are you going to start with? This is Dracula's Blood Incense, hand-rolled masala incense sticks. I guess it's supposed to smell like Dracula's blood. Oh, it's interesting. It's pretty. Not what I would expect Dracula's blood to smell like. This bitten bracelet, super retro. Very cute. Some cool pins from the Scary Marys collection. We have Vampira in a coffin shape. We have Edgar Allan Poe's head. Lily Munster and Elvira inside a coffin looking sexy in her lingerie. Sticker from Scary Marys. Couple rings. This is Edgar Allan Poe on the ring, and this is Lily Munster on the ring. Poe. You can go my wedding finger, because we'll be married. You're too big for more. Oh, it's adjustable. Well, you can go on the middle finger instead, because fuck the haters. These are Universal Monsters tarot deck cards, and they are so cool. The art on them is so good. And it has, you know, Dracula, Frankenstein, the Mummy, Bride of Frankenstein, Creature from the Black Lagoon, but also has Phantom of the Opera. And the illustrations in Phantom of the Opera are based on the books. Pulled them all out. Of course, I should be showing you the Dracula ones, right? Oh, it has Phantom cards. These are so cool. Christine is the High Priestess. Christine Rowell are the Lovers. The Phantom is the Hermit. The Persian is Justice. Oh, Frankenstein's the Fool. Dr. Frankenstein is the Magician. Bride of Frankenstein is the Empress. Oh, here we go. Dracula's the Emperor. Of course he is. Oh, Creature from the Black Lagoon is the Hanged Man. Upside down. The Mummy is Death. The Devil is Dracula's Brides. I love that. Girl power. The Three of Castles is the Armadillos from Dracula. I love the armadillos. This is swag that came with the interview with the vampire fanzine I showed you earlier. Original art by contributors to the fanzine. This is Akasha, and it says those who must be kept on it. It's a button. We also have buttons of TV show Claudia and book/movie Claudia. So cute. They look like little dolls. And this, which I love the most, it's Louis and Lestat, and it's a magnet, the charm keychain things with the little heart magnets. And so they go back together because they're in love. Lestat is all happy in his blue coffin. Louis is all angsty looking with his book. Grim Reaper Love Patch. This is cute. It's a Universal Monsters. I know it's hard to see, but it's like a pillbox thing. Keep your pills in there. Got a witch, Bride of Frankenstein. There's Dracula. There's the Fly, the Martian, and the Phantom of the Opera's on there too. Lon Chaney without his mask. These are super cool. These are Universal Monster original art stickers by an artist from my Discord server who sent them to me. Look at the Phantom, he's so cute. Dracula, so serious. These are such cool stickers. I tried finding your Etsy store or wherever you sell these, but I couldn't, so please link in the comments and I will share where people can get these adorable stickers. You're so talented. You know, I stopped collecting Phantom of the Opera merchandise when I was like 22, but the bug's bitten me again. I got this golden mask pin. This is from another artist on Etsy. It's like a wall hanging thing. I showed you the bust that I have of this shape of Phantom of the Opera, but now he did a wall hanging version in a triptych, and it's so gorgeous. It's just like made of resin. From an original artist on Etsy called Delamortico. He also made this Red Death figurine, which I don't know if it's meant to be Phantom Red Death or if it's meant to be Edgar Allan Poe's Red Death, which is who the Phantom was cosplaying when he dressed up like Red Death, so it works either way. Ugh, I love the Red Death. And that same artist did a collaboration with Abigail Larson, one of my favorite drawing artists, to make one of her designs of the Death figure into a resin sculpture. So cool. Two of my favorite artists together know how I feel about death. I just thought it was cute. It's like a trinket box of a bat. It's really cool art. These ravens and then this eyeball batwing, the finger. By Velvet Mush. And this one's by Jen Tracy. This is the dream catcher from Twilight New Moon that Jacob gives to Bella. It's got the little wolf charm on it. So, you know, you could catch your dreams and stop having nightmares about your ex who dumped you for no good reason. Thanks. This is the Phantom of the Opera Carlton Cards musical light up ornament. I collected these back when they were coming out. They came out with five years in a row, and I had the first 4. And then I never got the last one, and then it was gone and you couldn't get it. But I just found it on eBay for like really cheap. And there were a bunch of others on eBay too that were like 5 times the price of it. So I snagged it. 5th and final in the series. When the Phantom grieves over the loss of his beloved Christine, a special light sequencing reveals that she is safe with Raoul. The hauntingly beautiful music of the night accompanies the soulful drama. It says it plays the melody, all I ask of you, and music of the night. Yeah. So when Christine and Raoul are sailing away on the Phantom's gondola, this doesn't have any batteries in it. You can see the Phantom, he's all upset. So he's singing, it's over now, the music of the night. And then when it lights up, you see through this 2-way mirror, and Christine and Raoul will be back there. This is in really good condition. This is from 2003, and I had the ones going back to when it began, 1998, 99. Now my collection is complete. This is a cheap clock that was made out of a record. Someone like laser cut out a record of the Phantom of the Opera with Christine in a pose that you like normally never see. They had 2 versions of this. One of them had like LEDs to make it glow in the background, but I just got the regular one. You know, we don't want to be too flashy around here. So Paul took my fledgling spawn antiquing to like a used goods sale, and she's 5, bless her. She found these for me. It's a little skeleton in a coffin graveyard, and then a whole bunch of teeny tiny gravestones. They're so cute. So now I have my own little grave scene. She was like, oh, I got these for you, Mama. They're scary like you like. She knows me so well. Make use of your coffin tray. So I don't know if you know this about me, but I'm kind of into the Disneyland. So I don't know if you know this about me, but I'm kind of into Disney's Haunted Mansion. Like, a little bit. See my fabulous jacket? It glows in the dark. Haunted Mansion boss bitch. This stemless wine glass. When it comes to Haunted Mansion merch, I like the gargoyle. I like the wallpaper pattern. I don't like the hitchhiking ghosts or the elevator people or Madame Leota. Those aren't really my aesthetic. I don't really like the cartoony stuff they do. I like the classic gothic stuff. So this pattern I love. Gargoyle candelabra. Also new this year is this epic mug. These are actually both from Spirit Halloween's Haunted Mansion collection. The jacket is from the Disneyland Haunted Mansion collection, but they also licensed to Spirit Halloween, which the quality of their stuff obviously isn't as great, but it's still so spooky and cool. This table runner is also from Spirit Halloween for running all your tables Haunted Mansion style. But they also licensed with Hallmark. So I went to the Hallmark website and got more Haunted Mansion merch. These are Haunted Mansion socks. My favorite pattern. See how pretty. This pillow looks just like a bat on a pillow, but actually glows in the dark. So when you turn off the lights, this gray pattern lights up, and it's all these spooky guys, and that whole pattern lights up and glows in the dark. It looks really cool. I can't show you now because it's not dark enough in here. And it has Disney's Haunted Mansion in the back. Also, this fleece throw, which is so soft and snuggly. It also glows in the dark. The eyeballs glow in the dark. I love it when things glow in the dark. This one's from the Disney store. This is another blanket, Haunted Mansion blanket. This is a weighted blanket. You know, the anxiety. But it has that same Haunted Mansion wallpaper. You can barely see it. It's very subtle, but all the designs on there, you know, subtle and classy, so people don't know that you're a Disney child on the inside. Not that there's any shame in being a Disney child on the inside. It could be spooky. It often is. I actually did get the Madame Leota Christmas ornament because it was on clearance. Usually I'm not into Madame Leota, but this one's actually kind of nice. And they didn't have any Christmas ornaments of the guys I like. Like I got the Gargoyle Christmas ornament they had a few years ago, so I have that. But now I have this one too. Does it light up? What does it do? Oh yeah, she lights up. Look at her. Not Haunted Mansion, but also from Spirit Halloween are these pint glasses, which I just thought were really neat. Gold with the black filigree and skulls. The thing about Spirit Halloween is all their Haunted Mansion merch is buy one, get one half off. So if you've got Haunted Mansion merch to buy, Spirit Halloween's website is where it's buy one. I don't know if it's buy one, get one half off in the stores, but I just got these like last week, so you can still get them. Also got the soap dispenser, spiders, pumpkin spider soap dispenser. My bathroom Halloween decorations this year are in black and white, so this would go well in my black and white Halloween bathroom. A lot of people say that they don't know when my house is decorated for Halloween, that it looks like it's always decorated for Halloween, but the difference is you can tell they're Halloween decorations if there's any orange in them, because we don't fuck with orange during the year, or if there's pumpkins, because pumpkins aren't year-round. Skeletons are year-round. Vampires are year-round. Phantom of the Opera is year-round. Pumpkins and orange are not. Though I don't really have that many orange pumpkins. I have a lot of like black sparkly pumpkins and teal pumpkins and purple pumpkins, you know, the good stuff. Speaking of fleece blankets, this one with the bat pattern, I'm gonna be so warm and cozy. And then this tapestry blanket, haunted castle and bats. My friend gave me this for my birthday. Waiting 6 months to show it to you. Couple pins from Disney. This is the Haunted Mansion Let Me Out, the coffin guy who's trying to get out of his coffin saying, let me out. You know, the same one from this candle that I showed you last time. Guy trying to get out of his coffin. And also, since it was badass, I got this Maleficent pin. Because, you know, she is the best Disney villain of all of them. She's in dragon form. And yes, I did also get the Haunted Mansion Crocs that are out this year. If they had like Hitchhiking Ghost on there or something, I would not have got them. But look, it's the purple black wallpaper pattern. My favorite. I've never owned a pair of Crocs before in my life. This is my first pair of Crocs, and they are brand name Crocs. They aren't like Croc-offs. But, yep. I've worn them a couple times. They're pretty comfortable. They aren't like blowing my mind. I'm not like a Croc convert or anything, but it's got the Raven, it's got the Gargoyle. These are very up my alley. Adjustable backs. As you can see, I have pretty large feet. I also have big hands. I don't know if you knew that about me. Extra large gloves. When are you gonna make Haunted Mansion gloves, Disney? That's not even actually all I got from the Haunted Mansion this year. I'm just showing you the most interesting stuff. I also got like sweaters and sweatshirts and pajamas and the stuff that is classy with the patterns. Not the cutesy stuff, no. Look at this ghost friend. I love this stuff. Look, it's like just plain little white thing, but then it has a ghost sheet over it. So cute. Squishmallows this year has a little Grim Reaper. This is like weirdly small for a Squishmallow to me, but it's so cute. Grim Reaper Squishmallow. What is her story? Her name is Otto. Her squish date is 1/27/2021. Are you ready to pick out the perfect pumpkin? Make sure you visit Otto's farm. He grows the best pumpkins around. Otto wins the contest for the largest pumpkin almost every year. Last year, his prize-winning pumpkin was bigger than a house. Good for you, Otto. This is something I got last Halloween, and I just now actually did it. This is my first ever diamond painting, and I just finished it. I'm very proud of it. And it didn't take me a year to do. I just put it off doing forever, but it's got some bats and a spooky tree. I don't know where I'm going to put it. Like, pink doesn't really go in here very well, so I don't know where this diamond painting is going. But it glows in the dark. All the little stars glow in the dark. Proud of me. I painted by number, but with diamonds. All right, fine. I'll do the thing. The last thing that I have to share with you tonight is vampire wine, which we've discussed before. I did a whole review on vampire wine many years ago. I'm sure my opinions have changed, but it was funny. It was a fun review. They came out with a box set this year that was a really good deal. So I got the whole box set, and this is everything that came in this set. the Cabernet Sauvignon. It came with one of the vampire cloaks, wine bottle cloaks, who you may recognize from the vampire wine bottle that has been here on my set for many years. They changed the labels. They used to be black labels, now they're creamy colored. So we have the Cab Sauv, the Merlot, Pinot Noir, a vampire Chardonnay, and Sangria, which is Sangria Española. Vivan los vampiros, serve well and chilled, a vampire sangria made with vampire wine. Sangria isn't some cute fruit punch, it's an adult sangria, bursting with passion and life and flavor. Chill and drink it straight. Mix it with fruit and brandy. Sangria, unleash your inner vampire. Don't have to tell me twice. Also came with a vampire wine key. This is vampire, sip the blood of the vine. A vampire wine logo cork stopper thing for those of you who don't finish a bottle of wine. 2 stemless Vampire Vineyards wine glasses. On the back it says, the taste of immortality. They're kind of small for wine glasses. You're just gonna have to fill them up all the way. 2 bars of vampire chocolate. We have fine Belgian milk chocolate and fine Belgian dark chocolate, vampire chocolate. And then a whole bunch of packs of vampire gourmet coffee. Nocturnal French roast, a steeped coffee bag. A wickedly smooth, dark blend with notes of smoke, caramel, and citrus. It's not instant coffee. You use it like a tea bag to make your coffee, so you're still brewing your coffee. You steep it for 5 minutes. We see coffee as an experience filled with ritual and a delicate balancing of flavor. We ensure each batch of our handcrafted artisan roast delivers a rich, strong, and wickedly smooth taste in every sip. Vampire.com, just the word vampire spelled normally, is a Vampire Vineyards website. Vampire Vineyards is a California winery, and as someone from California, I can vouch that our wine is indeed good. California's climate is exactly the same as the Mediterranean climate, so it's perfect for growing all kinds of grapes, especially California Chardonnay is one of my favorite, if you like that buttery popcorn flavor in your Chardonnay. Vampire Vineyards is an actual vineyard. It's not just a label that a vineyard puts on for a gimmick wine. No, Vampire Vineyards is their whole brand, and they have several varieties. We've got 5 going on here, but they have more than this. Vampire Vineyards has a long tradition of crafting quality wines from premium California grapes. Our Merlot offers aromas of black cherry and black plum. This well-structured wine has an elegant texture and a long finish in the mouth. Hints of cola and cherry linger on the palate. God, I can't believe it's been like 10, 11, 12 years since my vampire wine video that I made for you. Don't watch it. Don't watch my old videos. But you can still click on them. Oh my goodness. That's not even everything, but we're going to stop there for now because it is October and we have things to do. I am going this week to see Dracula the Ballet at the Nashville Ballet. They had developed a Dracula ballet many years ago, and they're bringing it back. They brought it back several times, every once in a while, every few years, and it's back this year, so I'm going to go see that Dracula ballet. Not to be confused with the other Dracula ballets developed by different ballet companies around America and the world. In Canada, Pages from a Virgin's Diary was a Canadian ballet. And then, at the end of October, I am going to the Vampire Ball in New Orleans, like I do every year. If you will be there, please find me and say hi. I want to meet you and say hi. I am going to the Anne Rice Vampire Lestat Fan Club Vampire Ball and the Halloween party that's happening the day before, which is a vintage Halloween costume party. For that party, I'm going to dress as a vintage vampire, like Bela Lugosi style, but the way that Lestat did it in the book when he's a rock star and he's a rock star on stage and he's wearing like the classic vampire tuxedo outfit. Everyone thinks when Lestat's a rock star, he's dressed like 80s punk. No, he was dressed in a suit and a cape and a vest, and he looked just like Dracula, and that was the vampire drag par excellence that Louis was wearing when he did the interview. Originally, he was wearing that outfit. So Louis puts on that outfit again, and together they go to Lestat's rock concert, and they do a whole rock concert in vampire drag. So that's what I'm going to be wearing for the vintage Halloween party. And then for the ball, I'll be wearing something else the next night. And then the following night is the Endless Night Vampire Ball, which is like a club rave sort of party. And they're having a different theme. So different ball outfit for that. And then the following night is the Coven of the Articulate Lestat Anne Rice fan club other vampire ball. Not the same as the Anne Rice Vampire Lestat fan club ball, but affiliated. So we'll be doing a lot of vampire balling in New Orleans this Halloween. I cannot recommend New Orleans on Halloween enough. It is a magical place. You go there and time stands still. I, one who is loath to leave their lair and their books and venture out into the world with people, actually enjoy myself in New Orleans on Halloween. I hope to see you there, or if not, I hope you have a happy Halloween. You'll be hearing from me again before then. I have another main channel vampire review video coming out for you, so keep your eye on my main channel as well. And if you are a member of my Patreon, you will get all these emailed directly to your inbox, so you've already watched those videos. And if you're not a member of my Patreon, you could be. You could help support me and make this channel possible. People support me in so many ways. They send me all this stuff to make videos about, and I super appreciate it. You can also easily just support me by joining my Patreon, becoming a member there. You can join my Discord server and talk about vampires with us there. You can become a YouTube member. That's a thing now. YouTube has memberships. The Vampire Book Club is coming back. We're going to pick up where we left off. Hopefully this month, get the Vampire Book Club back up and rolling, because I've missed talking to you on live streams, and that's going to stay on my main channel because that's where like everyone gets the alerts. But if you want any more of these Vampire Library videos, stick with me here on the Quoth the Maven channel. Tell your friends I need subscribers. Otherwise, they won't let me monetize the videos. And also watch hours. So, you know, you can let videos play in the background, help me get my watch hours. Oh, YouTube. Speaking of YouTube and engagement, I want you to tell me your favorite new Halloween decoration that you've gotten for yourself this year. Is it a blanket? Is it a pillow? Is it knick-knack? What did you get that I don't got? Do you too drape yourself head to toe in Disney's Haunted Mansion merchandise? Comments are good for the algorithm. Conversations in the comments are even better, so talk to me. Let's talk. I am the Maven of the Eventide, and I hope your October is truly spooky and magical. It's the best month of the year. All right, time to crack this bitch open. Why are these so small? See, Disney knows what's up.